All right, today we're going to look at how to properly construct an outline for your speech and how to go about finding research and then citing that research in the correct format. So I'm in my Google Drive right now, and the way that I find it easiest to do this is I'll go into the folder that I want to store everything in. So here's my communications folder. Let's go in here. I'm going to create a new document here. I'm just going to title this Informative Working Outline. And I put working in the title. You can put rough, you can put draft, whatever, so that you know that it's not quite finalized, it's not quite perfect. And we're going to start with the header. Okay, so you'll notice that I have my basics typed in here already. I've got my name, I've got my teacher's name, I've got the course title, which is COM 110. That's the abbreviation for the class that you're currently in. And I've got my date, which is today's date, and in MLA formatting, you're going to put date, month, year. So it's a little different, it's a little backwards. In any case, I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to change it to size 12 font. I'm also going to change it to being Times New Roman. Okay, so I've created my document, and I've got my header in there in the proper MLA formatting. I've got my title. Even if it's just a working title for right now, it's an outline. You don't have to do anything fancy like you might do with an essay. And I've got my three main things to get me going here. My general purpose, which I'll fill in, my specific purpose, which I'll fill in, and my thesis, which I'll fill in, okay? So that's a good start. Now here's what we're working toward. This is an example of a quality completed speech outline, okay? So we've got this whole first part filled in. You've got your pieces of the introduction, which I'll get to in a minute. And then you've got your body and the way that this is laid out. You'll notice that this is able to fit in that 2-page requirement because it's single spaced. I've gotten to the bottom of this. 2 pages is single spaced. Now, if you double space it, that's when you end up in that 3 to 4 page realm, which is still better than 10 pages. It's still not a complete manuscript. It's concise. It's still concise. So what I'm looking at here, and I will make sure that this is available to you on D2L, but what we've got here is just a general skeleton for our outline, and then you'll fill this in beyond this. So Roman numerals 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the beginning are your attention getter, your common ground, so how you can connect this topic to your audience, which I think some of you needed to maybe drive home a little bit further in your last speech. Your thesis statement, which we've been working on, and a preview with signposts, quote unquote. So a preview statement about the things that you're going to be talking about. Give us a heads up of your main points. And then your body fills in as you see here. So there's some helpful hints on this page and everything. And then your conclusion will be the opposite of your introduction with a summary of your main points, which mirrors your preview. A restatement of your thesis, which mirrors your initial statement of your thesis, and a final closing statement, which ties everything back to the attention getter and the common ground. Okay, so it's a mirror image of your introduction. If you were to fold your speech in half, it would line up perfectly. So I've got my outline here, and it's single-spaced, and it's coming along all right. One of the main things that I noticed variation on your last outline was your formatting. And here's the easiest way to make sure that you're getting your formatting down. Go to this numbered list button, and I want you to click on the one that has Roman numerals, capital letters, and numbers. This is the most common way to format your outline, and this is the way that they use in the speech department at SMSU. So this is what they're going to be looking for from you. So I'm going to click on that, and it's automatically going to format it for me. So if I'm following the outline structure that they want me to follow, I'm going to start with my introduction. Okay, great. I've got that all set up. Now I want to go back to my numbers button up here, and I want to click on that formatting again and actually get going with my main points here. So here's how they want you to do it. Main point 1, and then A, B, and C are going to be your subpoints. We want to try and make sure that we've got 3 subpoints to support our main point. If you're unfamiliar with how this auto formatting works in Google Docs, the way that I was able to get these automatically to be capital letters, when I've got my Roman numeral here and I type in my main point, or whatever I need next to this Roman numeral. I'm going to hit return. It's automatically going to give me another Roman numeral. And to get rid of that, all I have to do is hit my tab key. So if I tab in, now it's going to give me my A. If I were to want an extension of my subpoint, I'm going to hit return, and I'm going to tab again, and that's where I get my numbers. So if there's something additional that you need to file under your subpoint, that's how you go about doing that. If you take a look at this example outline, you'll notice that they have their main point, their sentence that sums up their main point. They've got a subpoint here, the Electoral College is undemocratic. And then you've got support for that subpoint in these. That's where you're going to put your references. Okay, you'll notice that they have a slightly different format of their in-text citation. Now, speech and English tend to vary in how they bring their citations into their outlines and into their essays, into their type material. So for our purposes, we're going to be putting the author's last name here, or the article title instead of a number. They also include transition sentences, which might be helpful to you as well. So you'll notice that this is just an abbreviated version of what you're actually going to say. There are still full sentences in this outline, but it is by no means a word-for-word manuscript of the speech. Remember, if you have memorized from a manuscript, that's when your speech comes off as being not genuine, being robotic, being disconnected from the audience. So make sure that you have a phrase outline and you just know your material. At the end of the day, the best parts of your speeches have been when you had to think on your feet and go off of what you know. That's how you should be doing all of your speeches the entire time. Another thing I want to walk you through and remind you of is the library service through SMSU. Instead of solely relying on Google Scholar or solely relying on other sorts of research through Google or other search engines, the library resources from SMSU, from any state university that you end up going on to next year, are going to be primarily very credible and very reliable sources of information. This is why I want this to be your first stop. And I know that you're used to other ways of doing research, but this is going to be the surefire way to make sure that your research is quality and to make sure that it's at the academic level that it needs to be at. Remember, this is a college class. You need to start thinking like college students, including how you do your research. So I'm on the SMSU homepage, and all I want to do is click on this quick links button, which is really convenient. It's more convenient than other university websites that I've interacted with. So if you click on this quick links tab, this sidebar will open up. And some of you are familiar with this because this is how you'll also get to D2L. But through this, I actually want to go to the button right below that, to the library services. Now, we don't want to just start with a one search because that's going to bring in such a broad variety of sources, and a lot of them are actually going to be sources you can only get at the library. We want to be looking for digital sources that we can access on your iPads or on your computers at home. So instead, what we want to do is we want to go to the Research Guides button. If you click on that, it'll bring you to this drop-down menu where you can then select the course that you're currently in, which is COM 110, Essentials of Speaking and Listening. If you click on that, go ahead and hit Go. It'll open up this tab for you where they have all of these things collected into one area. This website is super helpful because if you go ahead and click on the Finding Articles tab, it'll bring you to a list of databases that they trust as their first line of research. This is a great way to get your research going, okay? So we have an opposing viewpoints, which would have been helpful in your persuasive speeches, probably not as much right now. We've also got a news stream, global and US news sources. If you're still looking for articles for your extemporaneous speech coming up, this is a good place to start. And if your topic with your group for your informative has to do with US and global current events, this is a good place to go as well. So let's say my topic is drones, what they are, how they're being used right now, and what they're being developed for moving forward, okay? So I'm looking at these databases thinking that it's probably going to be in some of these news articles. So I'll open up that database, and it's probably going to be featured in a number of academic discussions. So maybe I'll look at the expanded academic ASAP. And I'm going to have to log in with my star ID and my password. I'm going to type in drones. And I'm going to search. That's a really general search, but we'll figure out how to narrow this down in a little bit. Okay, that's a lot of results, yeah? You're not going to read through all of those. You're not going to look through all of those. So one thing I can do to narrow my search immediately is to scroll down and take a look at this left-hand column. First of all, I want to change my publication date to be really recent. So I'm going to enter a date range. So that helps a little bit. That got rid of about 100,000 results. I'm also going to click on full text to make sure that I only have articles that are giving me the full text of the article. That eliminates a number more. So now I can also take a look here and see how they're spread out between different publications. It looks like the vast majority of them are newspaper articles, which makes sense because it's a news source. Now I'm going to start looking through these articles to see which ones I want to keep and which ones I want to toss or scroll past. Okay, so this article title stands out to me. The abstract is just a simple paragraph that tells us what the article is going to be about. If I scroll down, I can find the full text of the article. And because my search word was drone or drones, that's what's all highlighted in this article. So let's say that this is something that I want to use. I can come up here and I can hit the Cite button, which might be a good place to start. Make sure that you've got your citations ready to go. And I'm going to change this from APA to MLA. And I have to hit change. And it'll generate, and I know a number of you use these for your last speech, but I just thought I would show it again. So I'm just going to copy that. And I'm going to come back to my working outline here. And I'm going to come down and I'm going to add it right there. Now my formatting, I'm going to need to change. I'm going to make sure that my works cited title is in the middle of the page. And then I'm going to highlight all of this because I want it to be uniform with everything else. So I'm going to change the font size to size 12. I'm going to change the font type to Times New Roman. And I'm going to get my hanging indents in there. Remember, everything after that first line should be indented. The first line should not be. So in order to do this on Google Docs, here's your reminder. You want to hit return once or enter once. And then I'm going to hit my tab button. And I want to come back down to this line as well. And I just want to hit enter and it'll move itself over there. If the color is off, you want to go to this text color and just make sure that it's black instead of gray. And there, now I've got my first citation. If I'm not going to end up using this, I can get rid of this citation. In order to access the full text of the article, I can scroll down and see this. Otherwise, I can save this as a PDF for future use. And that's going to download to my computer immediately. So I can open that up, and now I've got the actual text if I don't want to have to research for this later. And those are the basics of starting to get your outline put together with your group. Just make sure that you're referring back to this video if you have questions. Refer back to the sample outline and the formatting that I'll have on D2L for you. And if nothing else, you can email me with any questions that you have or just wait to ask them in class. So feel free to let me know as anything arises. I hope this gives you a good direction on getting your outline started.